If you look at these two pictures, and they're drastic. Okay, they're active patients in my office. It's drastic. And if you look at this here, you will recognize that this person's in trouble. And if you look at this from a nervous system, which is an energy system, and you look at it from this place here, you'll notice that for this person to stand up, for this person to sustain itself, okay, it has to be extremely taxing on the energetic system of the body. And if you also understand that there's only one energy system and everything takes from it, and if you understand that posture in a gravitational field and a misalignment of posture is the largest energy user, then we are in the first position to help people for degenerative disease, okay, which is what degenerates their energy system. So what happens is the body starts communicating, okay, and it starts with, I got a muscle ache, or I got a cold. That's a systemic, low-level problem. A muscle spasm or pain is a low-level, localized pattern. All right, and if you leave it long enough, the body will continue to break down. That's why they're degenerative, and energetically we diminish, and the forces increase. So it's a mixture for what? It's a mixture for success in our business. Okay, and why is it a mixture for success? Because everybody's got this, guys. Everyone. Okay, and we've just done a really poor job at explaining it, because we can't even explain it ourselves. The way we explain it is, you got to bend, you got to look at the L5, and your head's there, your atlas is here, you got a spasm, your motion here, I touch it, wow, you got a spasm, oh, your hip's out. Okay, my patients don't say my hip's out. Okay, they say I'm misaligned to me, I'm out of adjustment, okay, because this is a picture of what? Is a person in a deep distress with a huge energetic overload, okay, to stand up and sustain, and it's feeling it somewhere, and it is not a bone out of place. That I can assure you, okay, because it's a trauma, and it's a neurology, and it's a collapse, and it's gravity, and it's bending, okay, and everybody's different. So what I found is I started in a method that said, this is what you do. Do this, do that, okay? And that's what I did. And what I have found is that the more I understand this, the better I do. And the only reason for that, and what I mean by that, is because everybody is different. If you can understand what's going on and you can measure this, and you can go ahead and see some nifty little insights to the posture and how the segments are not what's normal. I mean, look at this. If you're the first time on this call, what's out of place? What's normal? What's abnormal? Okay, so we've answered those questions, and the next question is how do you support this thing as well as possible to get it back up to center? And it has to be done at a global level. So these people right here are in a huge energetic lock. The cool thing about the body is in the frontal plane, is which we're looking at, that A to P view, it should be straight. And, you have everything is horizontal and vertical. Shoulders are horizontal, spine is vertical, pelvis is horizontal, and in the sagittal plane, you have 3 nice curves to it, okay, and all kinds of stuff. So you have this stable, flexible system. And what happens is when it gets traumatized, it needs to start locking down. And if it has to start locking down, guess what happens? It loses its flexibility to increase its stability. All right? And that's why people, and that's why all of us feel that tension and that compression and that loss of motion, okay, because it's a global system. So this is what I call, and what everybody stands up is, what all the three-dimensional activation of all the muscles is the neurologic lock. The neurologic lock. Everybody has one, because everybody is misaligned in a gravitational field. Muscles have to be activated, and in gravity it starts compressing. And it needs to be stable yet flexible. It's the coolest system, stable yet flexible. Okay? A car is stable and it's movable. It's not really flexible. It sits on some leaf springs that make it flexible, but it makes it flexible only in one, what's the word I want? One plane of motion. The human body it's amazing. So it's a responsibility and the purpose for the chiropractor to say, hey man, if we're supposed to just straighten up the spine, then we need to understand the whole system altogether. Okay? So here we go. So let's talk about that a little bit. Okay? That neurologic lock is something that we need to overcome. So when somebody is laying on the table in side posture, we need to be able to overcome that neurologic lock. And it's massive, man. You know, the slide I think that I had up, I mean, I think I could do this pretty much slide last, is for an effective change, the neurologic lock must be released. Okay? Which means you have to overcome the muscle tension that the nervous system is holding in this person at every level. Because if you want to move it three-dimensionally back towards tensegrity, then guess what? You have to release it all. Okay, so I spend 80% of my adjustment, man, going after just getting to this place. Okay? And it takes me about 10% to release it and then try to get 10% to go beyond it. And sometimes I can't do that, man. I can't do it. It's exhausting. It's exhausting, and we've minimized that. We've minimized it with a click and a pop and all that kind of stuff. It's not okay. You know? It's not okay. So I'm here to tell you otherwise. So we have trauma and we have compensation, and I'm going to talk about it tonight at a global level. So I want you to understand that I see the biggest weakness in the human body is side to side. You know, if you look at the musculature, we've got a lot of A to P muscles, the abs, the pecs, the traps, and all the way down the back muscles, the QLs, the glutes, okay, the hams, okay, the quads, those kind of things. And then you got and then you got as the lateral guys, you have the TFL. Okay, you got the adductor on the insides, and you got, you know, words like gluteus minimus, gluteus medius. I think Allie will tell me that they facilitate some support for the lateral lines. Okay, so the human bodies get knocked off center all the time, and that's what we see as a weight differential. Okay, we see it as the tilt of the body. And then from there, as the body goes ahead and it compensates, and then from there, energetically, it starts to diminish, and it starts to collapse and rotate like a screw going into a piece of wood. So we measure that, and we look at, like, the first one here. Okay, this class is not here to start from the beginning and tell you what a posture listing is about, but this is a balanced misalignment with 3 lower structures moving to the right and 3 upper structures moving to the left. So the nervous system is functioning. It's weakened a bit because normal is 0 to 3 pounds, and this is 12 pounds. So that right hip and that right spine and the right are leaning out a little bit right. So, you know, the right is a little bit it's fallen out, okay? Which makes what side weak? Anyone?
Left side.
Thank you. It makes the left side weaker. So I tell my patients, because they'll say to me, no, my left side is stronger. I said, yeah, it's stronger than the right side, but it's not strong enough. That's why it's fallen out. So yeah, it's why is it stronger? Because it's trying to hold the person up, because the pelvis is falling to the right, so the guys on the left are trying to hold it up. It's pretty simple. So they are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, just look at Serena Williams' forearm. The one she uses for tennis is like 5 times. Look at my wrist compared to my right wrist to my left wrist. Okay, so strong, but not strong enough. Okay, and we can look at these misalignments and we go to the next one and we go, wow, you got 5 structures on the right and only one's on the left. The head's turning to the left. And then the next one is you've got 3 structures on the right and then the shoulders turning to the left and then two other structures are turning to the right. You know, why is it doing that? Okay? Why is it doing that? And if we can understand the nervous system, dude, we got it. We get this really moving, okay, biomechanically. And then the next step is, you know, because if we understand the game, then we know how to play a whole lot better, and then the application, the hitting becomes a whole lot easier. Okay. So that being said is the way that the body responds to trauma in the lateral planes is it uses the righting reflex. And within the postural listing, there are the first four letters are the guys that kind of keep you up structurally. And that would be the low hip, the spine, probably the legs, which is, we're going to have a discussion in October about the legs and weight, and also the shoulder. And if you sit up or stand up and you move your shoulders right to left, you'll feel it moves your spine and it shifts your posture. Okay? If you do that to your hip, it moves your posture. If you do that to your legs, it moves your posture. Okay? Pretty simple. So all of these things move your posturally laterally. Move your head to the right, move your head to the left, move your neck to the right, move your neck to the left. They don't move posture. They just balance your eyes. So we have our postural movers, okay, and then we have the righting reflex that just move the eyes, okay? So if these postural movers can't do their job, guess who's got to pick up the slack? The eye guys, okay? It's the way it rolls, okay? And for these misalignments, for misalignments as of right now, okay, we have an algorithm that looks at this relationship and says, hey, okay, we have to release the functional components first, and then we're going to release the structural components. And we release the functional ones first because they are stronger than the structural ones that are falling off. So when I say structure, I mean not the structures, I mean the damage, trauma, okay? So we have trauma, which I call trauma structure, okay? And then we have function, structure, function, okay? And remember, structure dictates function, hence that language, okay? So you can look at trauma and compensation. Those are and those are the words that we use, okay? So we take the function out first, okay? Okay, meaning we release it first. We overcome the neurological lock on the function side first because it is stronger and reactive to the structure. So if you take the function out first, okay, you take the big gun out first, okay? You take the reaction out first. And then once you take the nervous system out, then you can move the structures a whole lot easier, okay? So that's what we've been doing so far, okay? And we have been looking at normal trauma patterns. So you know that a straight spine in the A to P frontal plane and a curved spine, that stability bouncy concept that we've talked about in the past, is normal for that. We have looked at this relationship up here and said there is also a normal trauma relationship, meaning after you've been damaged, there's a normal, okay? It's not as good as textbook, okay? But normal, there's a normal within trauma, and that is where you have the three lower structures and the three upper structures opposing each other, and they're within 0 to 3 pounds, and you have a coplanar relationship between your pelvis and your shoulder, so they only move within 0 to 3 millimeters. So again, 3 bricks to the right, 3 bricks to the left, 0 to 3 pounds, 0 to 3 millimeters of twist. Okay? And tonight, I'm going to just mention, okay, that there is a second one that I noticed. Okay? And it took me a while to notice this, but once it kind of hit, and that is this one here. Okay? And that is where the trauma to the body is below the pelvis. Okay? And what happens is it's usually at the legs or lower pelvis. And you have a trauma to this direction, and it knocks the legs off center. And what you'll see in this pattern is the human body, when it's balanced, the spacing between the legs is a triangle, an isosceles triangle. Okay, the legs will sit nice. nice and balanced. And as they go off center, okay, as this would move this way, okay, the legs get knocked off this way, like in this diagram, this here, is this leg becomes straight, and it forms a right angle, okay? And this becomes the hypotenuse, if you remember your geometry, and that nice isosceles triangle deviates off center. So when that happens, the pelvis drops on the opposite side. So we get the legs going left, okay, and we get the pelvis, the spine, the shoulders, neck, and head are compensating. And that looks like this pattern, where everything is right, but the weight is left. That would be like this one right here. The pelvis shifts off left, it creates left weight, okay, because it deviates off center, and everything else compensates. Fair enough?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Good. Okay. And again, look at if you're here and you're not like sure, I mean, you'll look at this again, and we're going to grow from this. That's the idea. The idea is it's to introduce new concepts on the webinars. That's what I do here. Okay. So that I can beat you at the conference. Okay. So historically, hold on one thing. What do these two things have in common? What they have in common is they both have one wedge point, okay? So you notice what happens with this one, and if you look at this, it goes right, 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 left, left, left. It's got one break point, okay? Right, right. This would be a left, left, left. This one would be this one here. Is left weight, left pelvis, okay, left fixed point right here, and then everything else goes right, okay? So that has one, and that wedge point is right here in the middle. Okay, right, and that's where the spine bends. It's a long lever, it's meant to bend. Okay, the other one is the wedge point is down at the pelvis on this one. Okay, so what they have in common is they both have one wedge point. Okay, one wedge. All right, and that is where structures are going one way, and everything else is going the other way. And it has, not that it's balanced, okay, but it only has one wedge point, okay? And in a balanced misalignment like these are, of course you're going to only have one structure function. And, body got knocked off, and it balanced itself, okay? And historically, you know this, okay, because so many chiropractors have noticed this wedge, okay? Palmer, he saw the segmental wedge. He looked at like C1, C2 wedging. Okay, couldn't decide which one was more important. In the end, he came up with C1 side posture, I believe. Okay, Gonstead looked at the intervertebral wedges, PRS-SP. Okay, that kind of stuff. All right, he looked at this picture down here. He looked at the pelvis, okay, and looked at the angles and stuff like that. Well, angles are wedges, okay? So he looked at that as well. And then Wernsig and Grostic and Gregory, they were the first guys that I can think of, and I'm not a historian, but I am a chiropractor, they looked at like sectional, okay? And Wernsig was the first one. He's the Nasium guy. And they looked at, the sectional wedge between the head and the neck. And they looked at the atlas as like this coupling that sat between it, which it is. Things roll on it, okay? But it's also, moves itself, okay? Well, all of these conversations are kind of pieces to the puzzle, okay? They're not looking at the whole thing, okay? It's like noticing a crack in the building and not stepping back and just looking at one brick and saying, okay, I'm making a decision about this one brick, okay? So I did that for the first 15 years, and I did it pretty well, but I was miserable. Even though I did it well, I didn't get the results that I wanted. So I started asking questions, and it came up to where we are now. Is I'm going to talk about a conversation about global wedging, okay? And it's hugely important, okay? So really, what wedge is a break between structures, okay, where you have something going right and something going left, or something going left and going right. Okay, and it's the structure-function relationship, okay? And it's where you see things oppose each other, All right. And this is important because it's vastly important at multiple levels. I'll touch on some of them tonight. But one of the first things is that even in this first misalignment, where you have only one wedge, two oppositions, okay, the question is that if I start with the function up and I start left side up and I open up the left side, what am I doing to the structure down below? I'm leaning on it. I'm putting force against it, energy against it. And when I turn the person back over to get that right 12 out, what happens then? I go against what I just did. So these wedges are going to be important to understand at a first level is what we're doing when we're doing what we're doing. Okay, so I'll continue. So, it's what may be good for one thing may not be good for the many. All right? So as I've learned from the posture IQ and I do something and I adjusted this person and all of a sudden I adjusted them left and looked pretty good and I said, oh, there's still a little weight there. And I turned them over and I adjusted them on the right and something problematic happened. The whole thing collapsed. It fell over. When it fell over on the left, it fell over on the right. I need to be able to understand that so that I just don't know why I shouldn't do it. That I shouldn't do it. I'd like to know why I shouldn't do it. So that's what's happened is once I started understanding the normals of things, I could see what isn't normal, and then I could put an adjustment into the person, and I can put them up on the posture IQ, and I could see how the nervous system responds live. Because that's what it does. It responds immediately. Okay? You know that, okay? Because if you've ever been almost in a jam or an accident and that adrenaline flows through you, it's instantaneous. Instant. It's like, what happened first? You got scared and then that happened, or it knew it was going to happen. It happened so quickly. That's all nervous system responding. Okay? Because anything is happening live in our body, it's from innate intelligence, which is the nervous system. So, the global wedge, okay? So, what are multiple wedges? We talked about some single wedges in those things, but let me actually back up for just a moment. So, let's look at each one of these and look at where the wedging is, okay? In the first one, we have one wedge, and I put a little line here. I think you can see it here. There it is there. But in number 2, we only have one wedge also, but it's in a different place. But number 3 has a break between the lower structures and the shoulder, and then the shoulder and the neck. Sorry when I'm doing that, but the shoulder is that was an R under there. Okay, and now we have 2 breaks. So the question becomes is, number 1 is why is this happening, and how does it affect us in our adjustment? Okay. So why is this happening? And it's happening because of either one or two reasons. Either one, okay, you have a structure function compensation, like this one. Stuff went to the right, stuff went to the left. Okay? For this one, let's keep it simple for tonight. Stuff went to the right, stuff went to the left. Okay? That's not really the truth here 100%, but I'm not going to talk about that tonight. Okay? And if you've been around enough, you already know this is already problematic because it's not normal. Okay? It should be on the left as well. So something's up there. And what's up there is really what's happening in number 3 that we could see a lot easier. Okay, so what's happening in number 3 is we have 2 breaks. We have a break here, and then we have a break here. We have a break between, say, the spine, the legs, the weight, the legs, weight, pelvis, and spine, and the shoulder. Okay, so we have one, just like we have it here. The shoulder's turning back beautifully, as it's supposed to, opposing the bottom. But what happens is, all of a sudden, something happens here. Okay? And what does that tell me? That tells me that the left side is falling down too far. How do I know that? Because I got something turning back above it to the opposite side. So what makes number 1 different than number 3 is that number 3 has some type of failure in which shoulder or which upper quadrant of the, from shoulder, say to below the scapula. What's happening here is this person came up. Okay, here's the pelvis. It's off to the right. Spine is off to the right. Here's the right side. We're looking at the back of this. Spine is to the right. And then what happens is this guy, it came up and it fell. At some point, they've either had another trauma through here that's made it too far left. And how do I know it's too far left? Because I got a compensation above it that's telling me, the nervous system is telling me that something is bending backwards, okay? Does everybody see that? So by looking at the posture listing, I can learn from these guys anything above of what's happening and is there maybe a failure. So what happens is there's either another trauma to this compensation or the compensation is becoming weak and it's falling downward. Okay, now it could fall either way, okay? But in this side, because it's falling more left, it's the right side is starting to become energetically weak into that right shoulder. Can you see that? Okay, and that
right shoulder is weak.
The right shoulder is beginning to become weak, and
okay.
Right. So what happened is, this left shoulder is pulling this thing over, right? So as this right hip falls out, okay, if that right hip doesn't, if that left shoulder doesn't pull that person over, this person's sitting like this, okay? So that left shoulder has to pull it over, okay? So it's in a contraction. And at some point, it became this right afterwards. It became balanced, okay? And then either this thing has had a trauma down into it, or these muscles on the right side are becoming weak. So it's starting to fall down, making the head and neck turn back. Okay? So we either can have a wedge formed by either a normal structure-function relationship or a trauma to the compensation, which this is a trauma to the compensation or a weakness in the compensation on one of the sides that's it's falling down. Okay? That'll make something else turn back. And this creates, an issue. Why does it create an issue? Because now I have two structure-function ideas here. Okay? I have, or components. I have a right-left neurologic and structure or structure-function relationship. And I also have another one that's here between the shoulder and below. All right? Where the two wedges are. So I have two wedges, and both of them have a different structural side, and both of them have a different neurologic side. So what do you think my next question is? How do I know it's a release? How do I know which one's more important? Okay? So which one first? I got two sides. Which one is the weak link? So identifying the primary weakness, primary lateral weakness, is what I do first after I take a postural listing. And if you look at these people here, these are 4 very active new patients in my office within the last 30 days. Okay? And I put their listings below, and I put little lines in between them. Can you all see that?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, they all have different places. Okay? They have all different, the first one has a relationship issue between the pelvis and the spine. And then it has a problem between the shoulder and the neck, and then the neck and the head. It's got 4 different wedges. It's actually 3, but the way you see it right now, it's going to be 4. but in October you'll see it as 3. Okay. The next one, it has 2. The next one after that, it has 2. The next one after that, it has 3. 3 wedge points, 3 wedges, okay? Which means I've got rights and lefts all over the board. So when I get 3, which side up first? Which one's important? Which one's not important? Okay, which one do I have to do last? Which one do I have to do first? Okay? So identifying the primary weakness before you touch it helps you. It does not mean that that is the truth. Okay, so let me say what that means, okay? So I may look at one of these things and I say that is the primary weakness because I have to be able to make a decision to be able to help somebody. I can't just sit there and go right, left. I can't flip a coin. I have to look into it. And there are clues in each one of these that tell me for sure which way to go, okay? The thing is that may not be the truth. Is when I adjust them and I put them on the posture IQ, I'm going to know, I'm going to learn, okay? And that's on everybody, okay? And that's not a push for the posture IQ, but if you're not measuring people before and after, you can't be doing the best work you could be doing. And that's truth, okay? There's just, I mean, I can't live without that. I could feel what I feel, but I can't see where the numbers end up, okay? So looking at these things, it creates an issue where if everybody was just one wedge, it wouldn't be a problem, but a lot of people are multiple wedges. Okay? So understanding the primary weakness and looking at these things, and we'll do a couple of them, and we're just going to do them nice and easy, is you got to know what normal trauma configuration is first. So when you look at each one of these, look at them and say, is it normal? Okay? Forget the numbers as far, I'm talking about the configuration, okay? Not the values, 12 and 5 and those kind of things. The configuration, because we're looking laterally. These numbers, these letters represent lateral motion, okay? So and if you look at them, you'll say, okay, which one's normal? Okay, are any of them normal?
Number 1.
Number 1's the only number 1. Excellent. So you got to know what's not normal then in the not normal ones. Okay? and let's look at, say, if number 1 is normal, we're not going to have to talk about it. Let's just talk about number 2. Is what should be happening in number 2?
Shoulder and neck should be going right, or left rather.
Correct. Okay? So the shoulder and neck are going left. Okay? So something's happened to that. And so which plane would you say is the primary weakness then, Brad? Brad?
Which plane is the weakness?
Yeah. Which side? Right side's weak, or and I don't mean I mean
No, the left side is weak because it allowed it to go right.
Okay, fair. Okay, so the left side has a weakness, okay? Where is the thing falling down to? Where is the okay, and there now we're going to use a different word between weakness. The left side is weak because the right side is falling down. Okay? The primary lateral weakness is the side that's falling down though, which will be the opposite of that.
Okay.
It's okay?
Yes.
So that's why I use that language, primary lateral weakness. Okay? So if you notice, okay, that these guys right here are falling down to the right. Okay, the first 2. Okay, falling over to the right. Okay, so would it if that was, I mean, if you look at that, would you lean up on that thing on the left hand side?
No, because that would destroy the compensation of the head.
Okay, and that's well, the compensation of the head is doing nothing except righting the head. Okay, it's not. What it is doing is if you do set up on the left-hand side on this person, you may compromise whatever is even trying to hold this thing up because the person is able to stand. So the left side is doing something. It's just in big trouble. Okay, because everything except the head is tilted to the left head, to the right. Okay, fair enough?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not going to have there's a whole nother conversation of there are certain people I would do the left side up first, okay? That's not the conversation tonight, okay? The conversation is, what is the primary lateral weakness? And that is the right-hand side, okay? And my contention is then, okay, is that you need to make sure that you do that side either first and last or second and last, okay? And what I mean by that is you either do the right side only, okay, or you do the left, then the right, okay? And there's reasons for either one of those. And again, that's not the conversation for tonight. The conversation is to look at that and say, I could just do a right release on that, okay, because the primary lateral weakness is to the right side. And then you could say the right 12 is there, the hip's there, I'm getting everything, okay? All right. The question is what are you going to do about that left head? All these questions. Okay, we'll get there. Okay, so where is the primary lateral weakness in number 3?
Right side also.
What's failing?
The right side, the left side's failing.
That's correct. The left side is failing. Now, you could say the right side's failing because of the weight, okay, but I'm talking about a normal. I want you to look at the configurations, not the numbers. Got to look at the configuration, not the number. And the configuration here is saying that these two guys should be to the left. So why are they not? Okay, why are they bending back to the right? Because the shoulder is failing to the left too far. So what is my primary lateral weakness? Say left-hand side. Okay? No? You guys having trouble with this? Yes, no, maybe?
Russell?
Talking to me. Yeah.
So if I'm understanding things, we're looking at number 2. Everything's falling to the right, so we're saying the primary lateral weakness is the right side.
What I want you to do is I want you to look at what a normal configuration looks like.
Correct.
Okay? This right here, okay, would set up as an RRR, Which letters are out of place in this case?
The shoulder and the neck.
Two rights. Okay? And it's verifiable that they're falling down because the head is turning back to the left. The head would never turn back to the left. It's a last compensator. It would never turn back to the left, okay, if the right side wasn't falling down too far. Okay? And just the fact that they're on the right tells you that it's falling to the right.
Gotcha.
You know, and it should be left. Okay? So look at what normal is, and then you look at, okay, what letters are abnormal, and then you'll see where your failure is. Okay? You'll see where your primary lateral weakness is. Okay?
Gotcha.
And you'll see how it's compensating above. Because if you have something that's not normal, something above the problem is going to compensate for it. Okay? It's made to do that. Okay? Now, if the head isn't doing it here, I mean, that person's even in bigger trouble. But that's even more problematic. Okay?
Gotcha.
Okay. So look, I'm here to introduce this tonight. Okay? It's a very easy concept once you start looking at them. Okay? It's very, very easy. Okay? And I'm going to make it even easier, and I'll tell you why. I guess I'll tell you now. Is that I started about 2 days ago. And Andy kind of initiated. He put a bug in my head to do it because I've been resistant to doing it. And that is that the posture listing is out of sequence. It's not in the best sequence to see that the way it is. Okay? And what's going to happen is the weight is going to go to the first position because it's the legs, most likely. And then we'll be able to see how it really breaks and how it really compensates by lining them up, because we'll have all the structures from bottom up to top in the proper sequence. You'll have the legs, you'll have the spine, the hip, you'll have the spine, you'll have the shoulder, the neck, and the head. And you'll be able to see the wedges very simply all the way up. you'll see the primary lateral weakness, and you'll be able to make a decision of what you have to support first or last.
Question.
Okay. Yeah.
So if the legs are on that rate, weight 12, that means the left legs are weak?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. I was going to ask you that. How do you know what's going up below the pelvis? But you just answered it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Well, the glutes are holding, the legs are holding you square. You'll see it in people's legs. Okay, and you'll see the rotation in their foot, like the external rotation side is usually the weight side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Good.
because if you leave the foot at a lateral straight, pointing forward, and people start leaning sideways, they fall over. So the foot, that's why people I see getting posterior rotation on that side of the weight most of the time, because it gives the foot turns out and it gives more surface area as the weight shifts.
It's going to make it even simpler in some ways.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Okay, so anyway, these are things that we're going to look at, okay, through this. I have listed, I've already started, I'm pretty much finished, but I've got, there's 36 different combinations to these, okay, and I've listed them all out, and I've listed their releases and their primary lateral weakness. So you could start out by looking at it and just going down and seeing the one it is and taking care of business. But the better thing is to understand it, okay? Because understanding it is how it reacts is really important. Okay, so look at if you're having trouble with this, like this is overwhelming, it's really not. We're looking at structures. We know what normal is, textbook normal. We know what trauma is. We know what the compensation. They're two normals, and then all of a sudden we see deviations. And things fail. Things have multiple traumas. Okay? Look at this. Right, left, 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 right, right, left, right, left, left, left. Okay? These three right here are interesting. Okay? Because if you look at them, and I put them there so you could come back to them, is the only thing that's different is from this one to this one is the head tilts back right. Okay? And the difference with this one is the weight. And if you start looking at these configurations and understanding the way it's breaking down laterally, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be able to understand where the weaknesses are, and then guess what's happening? Then what happens is this. And what this is that when you understand the primary weakness, okay, and you understand that every misalignment, because it's three-dimensional, has a compression and tension, which means it has a right, it has a left, and it's like a tug of war, okay? And you have to release all of them, okay? You then can start looking and saying, okay, if you're going to adjust somebody on the right, you're always making an enemy on the left. And if you adjust on the left, you're always making an enemy on the right. You follow me? Because you're opposing things all the time. Even in a normal trauma misalignment, right, 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 left, left, left. Something like that. Okay? Even that, when I set up on the right side, I've already said it like 10 times, you're going to go against the left. And when you go against the left, you're going to go against the right. But you have to do both sides sometimes on people. Okay? So where we're going to step is, because we understand the wedge, okay, and we understand where they are, okay, and then we're going to make a decision about the primary lateral weakness, and we understand that wherever I touch one thing, I make an enemy with the other, that this is the problem then that we have to solve. And if we understand tensegral mechanics, okay, and that is that when I push into C5, it's a very different action than C7 because it's a balloon or like a rubber band, okay? You've seen me draw this diagram a million times. If this is a rubber band, okay, and it's side to side, and I push it in here, I push it here, I push it here, I push it here, I get very different motions. When I push this one here, okay, from here up, I create tension this way and tension this way. Fair enough? I don't get that arrow great. And on this one, though, okay, When I push in here, I get tension all the way from this end to that way. So guess what happens is when I push into these things, C0, C1, C5, C7, I get very different action rights and lefts. Okay? And the global wedges are directly related to these places. So I have found a way to identify the global wedges, identify the primary weakness, and then identify where in the cervical spine I can release those neurologic locks, okay, based on my positioning, my line of drive, and what I call these things my bend points, either at C0, C1, C5, and C7. And that's all I do all day. Pop, 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 right through it. Never going against anything. Interesting. Okay.
Interesting.
So the global wedge, and if you look at this picture, this is the way I speak to my patients. Okay? This says trauma. It's got an arrow going in here. Okay? This creates tension here because it's falling over, so I got to hold it up. This is the compression side. Okay? And if you notice, the shoulder is low on the right. It's also low on the left, low on the right of the hip is. So this left shoulder is going through what? Energetic failure. And you can see the whole thing off vertical. You can see the head and the neck falling off, hence the arrows there. Okay? So this is the way I talk to my patients. I used to draw numbers and say your atlas was out of place. Now I talk to them about their trauma and their weaknesses, okay, and their energetic failures. And also, guess what? I could even tell them where they're having pain before they tell me. And I'm not being a wise guy by saying that, but it's pretty accurate. They may not have pain there yet, but they have stress there. Okay? And we'll talk about all these things. Where? Everybody in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you. In Atlanta. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we can look at the human body and now for the first time really talk about it at what level? The nervous system level, which is the energetic level. Primary lateral weakness, okay? And we can look at a way to kind of support all the structures towards tensegrity upward. Okay? Never going against anything. Okay? And that's it, man. And that's what I do. And that's what we're going to talk about. And we're also going to talk about is a much more effective way to release it through a static stance, you know, a little bit back towards what we used to do in upper cervical land. Okay? That doesn't mean that I don't use the dynamic stance off the platform, but I have to overcome the neurologic lock first, and then I can create dynamic motion. Okay? Any questions? Well, lots of questions, I hope, because I didn't really give you any answers. I just gave you ideas tonight.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you having me. It's 8:56. I hope I will see you in Atlanta. Next month, I'm going to talk probably about the adjusting side of this. Okay, because those are the two components. And that's what we're going to do at the class, is we're going to run through the biomechanics, run through the primary weakness, understand the bend points, understand the placement. The placement is cool because it's very dynamic and tensegral now. It's easy to understand. And then the lines of drive and at those bend points, understanding whatever you're activating by looking at the postural listing and not going against anything. S to I to S. Even A to P and P to A, Brad.
Thank you.
Yep. And then a release that's a whole lot easier. And I don't like to use the word easy because there's just no way you're going to touch somebody 4 or 10 times and get through this stuff. It just isn't possible. Okay? You know, and I adjusted 31 people today. Straight out. Okay? And that's a lot for me. All right. So, but you know, I charge a premium dollar. I think Matt Glass is the only guy that charges more than me because he's in Manhattan. you know, and that's okay because you get to do it less and you got to work more. It's good. We're like the Ferrari guys. All right. All right. Very good. All right. I hope you have all a good night, and I appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Russell.
Thanks.
Thanks, Russell.
You're welcome.